I'd like to call this March 6, 2014 Cookeville City Council meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson.
Present.
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Mayor Swallows.
Here.
Vice Mayor. Councilman Albright. Here.
I'm here.
All present.
Really high-pitched voice. All right, would everyone please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Item 1, consider approval of agenda as presented. Do we have additions, subtractions to the agenda?
We have one addition, item 7. Consider approval to purchase 27 Lenovo L440 notebook computers, 32 AC/DC adapters, and 5 Lenovo. Is that how you say that?
That's what I'm going to say.
Does that sound good? M83
Close
desktop
enough.
computers under the statewide contract. Police Department sponsor is Chief Randy Evans.
All right. Do I have a motion for approval for the addition?
Yes, so moved with the addition.
Second.
All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right. Item 2, consider approval of minutes. Council meeting held on February the 20th. Motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, on new business. Item 3, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 140201, rezoning 20 South Whitney Avenue from CL Local Commercial to CG General Commercial. Sponsors Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this request was submitted by the property owner, Tim Stover. There are 3 parcels that are involved. It's parcels 2, 2.01, and 3 on tax map 53G, Group G, and combined, these 3 parcels consist of approximately 1.6 acres. They're shown on the screen here in a combined fashion. There's a commercial industrial structure which straddles these 3 parcels. Here's an aerial view and shows you the existing structure that's on this parcel. The property is contiguous with CL zoning to the north, south, and east, and with CG General Commercial zoning to the west. Adjacent to the north is the Nashville and Eastern Railroad. To the east is a auto parts and a paint store and a propane gas company. To the south is a soft drink bottling company, and to the west is South Whitney Avenue. Mr. Stover also owns the property on the west side of South Whitney Avenue, which is identified as Parcel 1 on the same tax mapping group, which extends all the way to South Willow Avenue. Parcel 1 is zoned as CG. All 4 parcels which Mr. Stover's purchased were at one time utilized by Institutional Wholesale. Here's some photographs of the property surrounding. This is to the northwest. Here's towards the southwest, northeast, and towards the southeast, back to the current zoning. Mr. Stover purchased the subject parcels and the parcel 1, which again fronts out on South Willow Avenue, for the purpose of establishing an additional location for his business, Stover's Liquidation. Stover's Liquidation is a retail and wholesale dealer of home improvement and consumer products, which at many of its locations utilizes outdoor storage of materials. And that's the purpose of this rezoning request. It's for the possibility of outdoor storage of materials. Currently, outdoor storage is not permitted within the CL zoning district, so the portion of his property zoned as CL could not have outdoor storage of materials. In the CG district, which the portion of this property is located on the east side of Whitney are zoned, in the CG district, it is allowed as a use permitted on appeal, which means you must apply and go before the Board of Zoning Appeals and have to meet certain specific conditions. These include screening, which it must be a type 3 screen, which is solidly opaque to the height of 3 feet, and it must comply with all yard requirements or setback requirements. And in this case, off of Whitney and off of Depot, the minimum setback is 30 feet. The areas depicted in our 2030 plan as being best suited for regional commercial and mixed-use commercial industrial purposes. The requested CG zoning would be appropriate under both land use classifications. And again, rezoning the subject properties to CG does not guarantee that outdoor storage materials would be permitted. As previously noted, it must, if it is approved, and he still desires outdoor storage, that must be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Planning Commission approved the rezoning by a vote of 5 to 3 for approval, for the requested zoning, and the Planning Department concurs with this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. I have a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Have a second? I'll second it, just to get it on the floor. Mr. Stover.
Yeah, and what we're trying to develop here is a new application of what we're trying to get accomplished. I brought pictures of what we have done to the building. Whenever we took it over, it was an abandoned building, been abandoned for approximately 6 to 8 years. It had Converse tennis shoes over the power lines. It also had graffiti all over it. We went in, we painted the structure. We've made vast improvement on that. We also have a lot of plans for this facility to upgrade not just only the Whitney side, but our Broad Street location as well. We're opening 4 new stores in the near future. We've already got 4 stores open, one in Antioch, Tennessee, one in Bristol, Virginia, one in Knoxville, Tennessee, and one here in Cookeville. And our plans are to grow 4 more new stores within the very near future. We're opening a brand new concept, so we're vastly redoing everything in our facilities, period, and that's including the Broad Street location. We're currently inside tearing all that out as well. I did bring a fence proposal as well of what we're trying to do on that property, and if you'd like to see that, would you like to see that?
Sure. Yes. Yeah, we've seen it. I don't know if
Also inside.
is there a way to get it on the screen? Probably not.
No.
Okay. And like I said, what we're trying to do, I mean, it would help our business to have this outside storage. And so I brought pictures of the inside as well as the outside and how we do things, and kind of showed everything that we do.
Thank you, Mr. Stover.
Uh-huh.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something. Anytime that rezoning comes up, it's a very difficult situation. Not every time, but any time. Sometimes everybody's in favor of it, and sometimes only 2 or 3 people are in favor of it. One of the things that I've learned while being on City Council is that, first of all, the Planning Commission does a great job, and they do the hard job. They do the study, they look at it, they know the code. This past week, I spent 4 hours going over the code and was very grateful. That's not something I have to do on a regular basis because of the language, etc. One thing, though, that I've learned is that zoning has to be fluid. Yes, we need to set the zone and we need to stick by it, but what's good today may not be good 20 years from now. What was good 20 years ago may not be good today. I was in on the formation of the historic zone in Cookeville, Tennessee. We're going to talk about that later in this meeting. And that was a very difficult zoning to get passed here in the city of Cookeville. People were opposed to it. People were against it. We finally got our foothold in, took a stance, and now we have people coming to the historic board asking to be made into a historic zone. And that's just in the last 15 years.
That's correct.
Last 15 years. So in 15 years, that's changed. I've done a lot of study on this, and I've been conflicted by it. And I've been approached and said, why would you be conflicted about this? Personally, I am a huge supporter of the West Side. I'm a patron of the West Side. When the West Side folks have come to me asking me as a city council person to do things for them, I have done it without question and without anything but total support. So why did this bother me? It bothered me because this gentleman bought 2 pieces of property thinking they were the same, and he wants to make a living. He's a taxpayer. He paid the back taxes on this building that sat empty for more than 8 years, and it was going downhill, graffiti, vermin, no telling what else. But when it comes down to changing the zone, I believe that I'm going to have to vote against this just simply because it's that much closer to the historic west side of Cookeville. But I can tell you it's not a vote that I'm making easily. I'm still conflicted about it. There's my comment about zoning. And I do want to remind people that, you know, zoning does have to change. We need to be able to change it. But in this instant, I believe that this should say CL.
That's good. Thank you. I guess I can say something now. I've always have something prepared. I usually write something down. I'm just going to go over basically my overall feeling about zoning, how I come up with this. For many of us, zoning means protecting the quality of life for residents and minimizing the adverse impact of one property upon another. Whether intended or not, the act of zoning can help to create or destroy the physical aspects of one's sense of place. The purpose and intent of zoning, from my point of view, is to improve the appearance of the community, to assure compatibility of land uses, and to preserve the resources and character of an area. The area in question tonight, from a historic point of view, might be considered Cookeville's first industrial park because of its location near the railway and depot. The immediate area south of the rail line historically has been a commercial industrial type use area, while north of the line had primarily been in a retail environment. Because the businesses in this area are well established, their uses were grandfathered into current zoning regulations. Mr. Stover purchased the 2 former institutional wholesale buildings, one facing Whitney, the other the Depot Street. The request from Mr. Stover is to rezone the property from CG to CL. The other property is already zoned CG, which Alma's explained to you already. CG possibly could allow outdoor storage if approved by the Zoning Appeal Board. The outdoor storage area would have to have an 8-foot solid fence, not allowing any item to protrude above the fence line. If the zoning change were approved and storage regulations and the storage design passes, the Board of Zoning Appeal, excuse me. Mr. Stover on this property will have more regulations and code limitations than his neighbors in this area. I feel this would be safe enough, or enough safeguards in place to allow this to happen. Mr. Stover has demonstrated good faith and intentions by the actions he has already shown with these properties, and will continue improving the curb appeal of his property. It doesn't make good sense, long-term sense, for a business to denigrate a neighborhood after making such a large investment as he has and will be investing more in the future. What I think we have here is a failure to communicate. What I believe the West Side Group has is a prejudice against Mr. Stover based on his existing business on West Broad, which he is currently in the process of remodeling. First and foremost, the use is similar to other businesses in this area as they store product or park equipment outside. Second, this building had been vacant for some time and now is being made productive again. The last thing we want to do is to block commercial properties from being productive based on a subjective opinion versus established guidelines and codes. I need to remember that we all are part of everyone we've ever met and every experience we've ever had. It is therefore probable that people have an opinion or opinions that differ from mine. It does not mean that either is necessarily right or wrong. I will, however, continue to base my positions on facts as I know them and use logic rather than emotion in reaching my conclusions. I am going to vote in favor of changing this zoning from CL to CG.
Thank you, Mr. Woodford.
As Alma and Jim have both said, that this has been something that we have all given a lot of thought to. I want to thank the Planning Commission and Mr. Mills for all the work that they have put into this, because they are the ones that guide us and answer our questions as we go through all of this, especially in the very beginning. I thank Mr. Stover for coming to our work session and presenting his case to us and letting us ask questions of him. When we say that the properties around Mr. Stover's property has been grandfathered in, yes, they have outdoor storage. And if for some reason that they were to close and not do anything for 30 months, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Then they would go back to the CL. Is that correct? Or would?
Well, the outdoor storage would be prohibited because it's their zone CL.
Okay.
They would not be able to practice that business for 30 months.
Right.
If they discontinue for 30 months,
30
then they
months.
must comply with whatever applicable zoning regulations are for their property.
Yes. So basically, to me, I've been here since 1976. Our community has grown up around these areas, and I can't see compounding the problem that we have over there now, that at the time when I moved here, that was not so centrally located at the time. If we want to stop having the outdoor storage in that area, we have to start someplace. I have had people email me. I've had people talk to me about this rezoning. A lot of people from West Side, but people that have no ownership and no business on West Side. And I have had only 2 people that have been for the rezoning, and one of them is Mr. Stover. And the rest of them have said, I'm not for it. I hope you will vote against it. And I try to base all of my opinions on what is best for the majority of Cookeville, and I will have to vote no for this.
Thank you, Councilman Albright. Yes, sir.
We're just going down the line again.
Sure.
Commissioners, council members. Whoa.
Whoa, big mistake.
Council members, you guys have been very, very well said, and I really appreciate your comments. I'm not going to try to bore you with a lot of my comments, although it's pretty hard to do. Try to be short here. It's a difficult vote. I had a really hard time with this one. We've approved millions of dollars here and there, but when it comes down to your neighbors and folks like passionate people like this, it's very difficult. It's difficult because there's no villains in this situation. There's really no villains.
No.
The West Side has their contribution to Cookeville is with doesn't need any explanation. What they've done to contribute to this community. And on the other hand, you've got Mr. Stover, who is a businessman that has he has said 90 employees. 90 employees, pays his taxes, provides a service for this community, wants to make this a better place by increasing his business. So there's really no villains. It's been very tough for me to do this, but both are very passionate about what they do. Okay, and I think because of that passion, we've reached a point where there's really not a lot of concession in this situation. So I've had to come down, for me personally, I've had to try to decide how best I can vote, which group can accommodate the way I vote. I'm going to vote no, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I feel like Mr. Stover it can accommodate my no vote better because he's a dynamic businessman. He's got great business acumen. I think he has a great opportunity to grow a business in a very vibrant area, but it's going to have to be done under the current zoning regulations that we have in place. And I hope you continue to do that because my worst fear that I have with all of this is that because of my vote, this or our vote, or however it turns out, if this just goes back to being an abandoned, dilapidated building. I appreciate you taking the opportunity to do that, and I hope you take the opportunity to increase your business in this great area.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Epps. I'll try to make it quick because we kind of see how this is going anyway. When this first popped up, I didn't know a whole lot about it until I got an email from somebody at the West Side, and my gut instinct was, there's no way I'm going to pass this. I mean, but then as I was typing the email to you guys, and in our seats, we have to step back for a second, and we got to listen. We have to listen to all sides, and that was my initial gut instinct was no. There's no. We've done a lot of good stuff down there. I say we because I love to go down there too. But then Mr. Stover came to our work session. He had done a lot of his due diligence, and he shows the fence that he's going to have to put up, how high it's going to have to be, and then I understand all the zoning, the restrictions. I understand the hurdles it has to go through, and with the BZA, what restrictions they can put on that. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, actually, it looks pretty decent. It looks pretty good. And I thought, I could see both sides now. I really can. Here's a business owner that bought 2 old, run-down, abandoned buildings and has already improved the look of them. So then I started thinking, this is a two reading vote, and the way I understood it, most of you guys hadn't seen what Mr. Stover had done as far as the fence, the restrictions that it was going to have, the height that it could go up, it could not go up over the fence if he stored stuff outside, that we had. And I thought, my dad's always told me, any big decision, you sleep on it. You sleep on it. And by virtue of the fact that we've seen this, we know it, but I felt like most of the West Side folks had not seen all this. I felt like when they come to our meeting, at least this is the information I've gotten, that's going to be the first time they see it. So by virtue of that, I was willing to approve the zoning on first reading just to give you a chance. I felt like him coming to the West Side, buying 2 abandoned buildings, making them look nicer than they were, sitting there empty, should have probably bought him enough time for an audience, at least, I felt like. So, and it from what I hear, it didn't really. So, I'm kind of giving what I feel like somebody trying to be he was trying to be a good neighbor to the west side. I really felt like that. So I was giving him his opportunity, and that was the reason behind my thought was to pass it on first reading. It'd have to pass another reading in 2 weeks, and it would give him an opportunity to come to some of you folks that have not seen this and to fully understand all of it. And then if the outcome's still the same in 2 weeks, I have no problem voting it down. I just wanted everybody to get their audience. And like I said, I was raised to sleep on any big decision, and I felt like this might be the first time some of you would have heard some of these restrictions that would go with this. And again, it's not an easy decision, but I rambled on, and we kind of know how it's going to play out anyway. But that was my reasoning. I wanted him to have his audience. I felt like he deserved that. I don't think he got it. So I was willing to vote for it on the first time and then let you guys decide. And if you were really adamantly against it the second time, I have no problem. Because, I mean, I too am a big fan of the West Side and a supporter. So, anyway, that's my rambling. I apologize. Anything else?
Anybody want to say?
We have a motion on the floor. Got a second? Anybody out there?
Anyway.
Yes, sir. You raise your hand first.
I have
Could you
a question.
come to the
Go to the podium.
microphone?
And I have a question on his behalf, really.
Would you care to come to the microphone so
Need to
everybody can
get
see
you
you?
the microphone for the...
He's already a successful businessman in this town, all right?
Yes, sir.
And I think we should support him. But I think there's an alternative to this decision, and that would be you raise the fences where he's at, higher, and make that with his heisters or whatever. The compromise would be give him a variance to a higher fence, hide what he's got exposed now, and develop that area right where he's at least for the immediate situation. But I don't know if he's considered that. That's all I would say.
Now, you're talking about the location on West Broad?
West Broad's
Current location.
Yep.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stigman.
Hi, my name's Alan Stingley, and I'm the chairperson for the West Side Business Association here in town. Also, my wife and I are property owners on the west side. We own the property 43 West Broad, and my wife has had a business there in that same location for going on 18 years now. When we moved into the west side 18 years ago, we came down there for one reason. Rent was cheap. She was starting a new business. We had to sign a 2-year lease on a piece of property, and we didn't know for sure how the business would go, and so it was a perfect location. After Billy had been there a couple of years, she and a handful of other people started getting together and talking about ways they could improve their little area of town. And I got to tell you that there's not a single person sitting in this entire room tonight 15 years ago would envision that the west side would look like it does today. There's not one of us that could have envisioned it. And we talk about Tim, and listen, I'm a customer of Tim's. Okay, have been for years. I've got a house full of ceramic tile that came from Stover Wholesale. But that doesn't change the fact that my disappointment is that we're not thinking about what the West Side can become in the future. Who knows what the West Side may be in another 10 years? I would love to see the conversation centered around that. Where are we going to take the West Side? And what we don't want to do is put shackles and handcuffs on the future potential expansion of the West Side. You talked a lot about what Mr. Stover has done for that building. Yes, there's a room full of folks sitting here this evening who've invested their life savings, they've mortgaged their homes, and they're developing successful businesses on the West Side, and things have never been better in the recent history of Cookeville than they are right now on the West Side. And we haven't even seen what the West Side can become. We've been to Chattanooga, we've been to Asheville, we've been to Franklin, Tennessee. We've visited other communities that have developed areas like we have. And what's happened in the West Side, it's become an arts and entertainment district in this community, and that's how we would like to see the West Side continue to develop. And we had asked that the council not put handcuffs and shackles on that, because there's more than one person here who's involved in this situation. There's a whole score of folks who've invested likewise and have created a pretty special place in this part of the community. So we encourage you, the vast majority of the West Side Business Association, as Connie and Alma will attest, are very opposed to this change in zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stingley. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
She was going to get up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My name is Sharon Choduri. I have no vested interest financially in the West Side. I came here tonight to learn more about this controversy. I am impressed with what Mr. Stover has done. I feel that as an astute businessman, he will continue to be successful, and he can probably do all sorts of things with his land within the existing zoning. I was hoping that the council would not change the zoning. And that bothers me because in the past I've had the utmost respect for Mr. Mills and the work his group has done. I've read about him and I've heard him in a couple of other council meetings and have the utmost of respect. So I'm a little on the edge here. I brought with me a booklet called The Promised Land. You folks may have seen signs popping up around town. Promised Land and the Heritage Trail takes you through the West Side. In the booklet, you'll see lots of Cookeville businesses on the West Side. The West Side has become a cultural and arts center. I am a volunteer at the depot. You can't believe how many people from out of town come into the depot and comment positively on our West Side and what Cookeville has to offer them. Folks, that's clean industry. When they buy lunch here, when they go shopping up and down the west end of town, when they spend their money, that's green money coming into town. No pollution involved. I do feel, if I can use one of the other council person's terms, conflicted. But after Mr. Stover was telling all the other businesses he has, I think he will be successful. I would hate a zoning change to, and I'm going to borrow someone else's term, shackle the future of the West Side. But I would hope that the council would not rezone that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stover.
I do appreciate everybody considering my proposal, and what we've tried to bring to Cookeville, Tennessee is a successful business, and we have to look kind of what we do in tax dollars too. And if you do even look all the businesses that has went out of business in Cookeville, Tennessee in the recent months, you see a lot of storefronts that's just going, plumb empty. And we talk about the arts and the culture. Well, we also look at Sunday's paper, and we also seen one fixing to close up in the West Side as well. I've talked to the council about, I'm talking to Mr. Mills about even doing some improvement on the West Broad properties as well, and doing just like you said, raising the fence. Believe me, we are changing our image completely. That's the reason we're inside our stores and and changing the inside. And you can walk in our stores right now. We're totally tearing out the inside and redoing it. And we've got visions of doing the same thing on the West Broad properties as well. We're building 36 apartments right across the street. We want the same thing you guys do. We want a nice, clean image on the west side, and we've tried to bring that to the table. Yeah, we've made some mistakes. We just like everybody else in 2012. We went through hard times too, but we've built a strong business, and we're not just building a strong business for now, but the tax and revenue dollars that we're trying to establish with the 25 South Whitney property is going to increase by internet, by wholesale division. We've got people coming into that side of to see what we're doing and buying product there. They come into our facility and they're going to be going out to eat at Crawdaddy's, and they're going to be at Witt's Barbecue, and they're going to be spending their money in that part of the town just as well. But we appreciate your consideration. If it goes whichever way, we just feel like we're blessed, and we just appreciate you considering it. We're not upset at anybody. We're just trying to grow a business that Cookeville really needs. And if you look around, it's pretty hard out here sometimes for a lot of businesses to make it. And our success can bring a lot of success for other people as well in this community. I know we're talking about arts and cultures, but the revenue that Stover's pays in tax dollars and tax money is quite a bit. And we've got buildings all over Cookeville, and we intend to grow, and we are going to grow. I can promise you that. We got four new stores that's going to try to open in the next year, and right behind that is more. Home Depot started with just one little small business. Look where they're at now. I just like people to back me. That's all I'd ask. But I appreciate your consideration. Whichever way it goes, we're not upset at anybody. We just appreciate the consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Stover. Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Mariani. I'm owner of Westside Deli. Again, I appreciate everything you've done with the buildings that are existing there. They look fantastic. I'm also a customer of yours as well. So in that regard, I'm a huge supporter. I'm a little ignorant to the fact of the CLCG, and I'd like a little clarification on, and I know, and that's who I'm going to ask.
Well,
as far as what would Mr. Stover be allowed to do under CL right now, under the existing code, which I know is where the city of Cookeville has all of their planning going towards. So for me, philosophically, like one of my colleagues said the other night when we had a meeting, it goes against a philosophical planning that we have going on in the future. So what I would like to know is, what would he have to do now? Would it have to be totally enclosed as far as any new storage that he puts on the plot under CL? Is that what we're arguing about here?
Well, that's a good question. The outdoor storage is defined in the zoning code as the storage of any materials in an unroofed structure. So theoretically, he could put up sheds with no walls, and that would meet the requirements for not being outdoor storage, and you're still going to see the materials will just be in sheds.
Under the CL?
Under the CL.
Which it is right now?
Which it is right now. So he could put sheds up, and they'll not be unroofed. That's, of course, that'll be up to the codes department to interpret that, but that is what the ordinance says, is any unroofed storage of materials. And sheds would provide a roof. And the only stipulation there would have to meet setbacks, which is 30 feet off of Depot and Whitney.
So no sides or anything would be required to be put on and to mask the storage underneath the shed? Now, I define a shed. I define a shed with sides. So I define my definition of a shed is, a roof and sides. I mean, does the code specifically say?
It doesn't say shed. I just use the term shed. It
That'd be
says
roof.
unroofed.
It says under roof.
Under roof.
Under roof.
In my opinion, that's not
Under a roof, no side
walls,
coverage,
no sides, yeah, but under roof. is the way our definition currently reads.
So we don't have that is under interpretation?
A little gray
or-
area there.
Gray area, that's what I thought. Okay. Well, again, I enjoy the west side and the progression that it's making. Again, I wanted to be more educated when I came here as far as the difference between the two zonings. I think I've got a little bit more of a clarification. I respect everything that Mr. Stover has said here, but I do believe, like I said, it goes against the philosophy of what the city of Cookeville was doing in the first place and moving forward in the future. Now, it may not be Mr. Stover's way into the future, so I'm looking for the next guy that takes over, not Mr. Stover. Mr. Stover has done a fantastic job here in the city of Cookeville. So I have to go against changing the code because I think it would take an act of God to get it changed back. So I'm against it.
Thank you, Mr. Mariani.
I call question.
Okay. All vote?
Oh, wait, don't we have to vote on question?
Yeah, we're supposed
Yes.
to. but
That's
I
the
think-
Robert's
I think
Rules
we're
of
probably ready to
Order.
vote.
Yeah.
Alma, so we-
Well, what? Should I take it off the table? Or should we vote? What do we do? I've only got-
If they're going to vote, they can vote.
You could call for the question. It takes a 75%. It takes three of us, right? Is that correct? I believe that's how it
Right,
works.
yeah,
Yes.
2/3.
Okay, let's do
I
it.
call question.
I'll second it.
Okay. All vote.
5 yes votes. Motion
Okay.
carries.
Time to vote.
Okay. Vote on the motion. All vote.
Oh, wait, I'm bad. I need to retract mine.
Just
Let me clear it. Go ahead.
Vote
do
again.
it again.
Everybody? Okay, all vote.
2 yes votes, 3 no.
Motion.
Motion fails.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming, too.
Yes.
That it does mean a lot that we have this many
Yeah.
passionate citizens. It really does. All right, on to item 4. Hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 140202, amendment to the zoning code relating to approval of property owners' requirements for establishment of HS district overlay zoning. Sponsors, Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this ordinance specifically would amend section 232.4E of the zoning code relating to the percentage of property owners required to establish or expand a historic zoning district. The state statutes for historic zoning are found in Tennessee Code sections 13.7, 410, or 401 through 410. There are no specific provisions for requiring a particular percentage of approval from property owners for the establishment of a historic district. The Tennessee Historic Commission, however, recommends that majority approval be obtained to ensure the success of the district. When the city of Cookeville established provisions for historic zoning in 2000, the council at that time determined that a 2/3 or supermajority of property owners would be required to establish a district. Section 232.4E of the code, which is entitled 2/3 majority approval of property owners required. This text of this section reiterates the 2/3 majority of approval for the establishment of any HS district or any expansion of an existing HS district. Requiring such a high percentage greatly increases the difficulty for establishing historic districts, and according to the Tennessee Historic Commission, we are the only municipality in the state that requires a supermajority for the approval or expansion of a historic district. The Cookeville Historic Zoning Commission voted unanimously at their November 2013 meeting to recommend to the Planning Commission that for a proposed change to Section 232.4E pertaining to the number of property owners to require a simple majority instead of a supermajority. The Planning Commission approved the Historic Zoning Commission's recommendation unanimously to delete the references to 2/3 majority in Section 232.4E in the title and the text and replace both with simple majority. The Planning Department concurs with this recommendation of both the Historic Zoning Commission and the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, this was something that when back in September or October, the historic zoning guy of Tennessee, I've forgotten his name and his title now, he came and did a work session with the historic board, and I brought this up, that we had to have a 2/3 majority in order to establish a historic zone. And he was very surprised that we had a supermajority like that, and that started the discussion to bring it to a simple majority. But at the time that we established the historic zone, there were many people who were opposed to it, and this was the way that we were able to establish it, by having that. And now it's we're now to 4 or
We have 4 districts, with one of them has been expanded twice.
yes, and so this, I think, is a great move for us to make.
Glad historic zoning guy pointed that out.
Yes, I mean, I'm terribly embarrassed. I don't. What is his title? Quick,
He's
save me.
a certified local government coordinator, and we are a certified local government, one of only 30 in the state.
Yeah. He looked official.
He is.
Looks certified, didn't
He
it?
looks certified.
Looked historic.
I look certified now.
All right. Questions, comments? Any more? I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Item 5, consider Resolution 140308, authorizing the mayor to submit an application to THDA for the Home Grant Program. Sponsors, Ms. Melinda Kiefer.
Mayor and Council, I'm happy to bring to you tonight a program from the Tennessee Housing Development Authority. They receive HUD allocations from the federal government for housing improvement. We also have Michelle Price here from the Upper Cumberland Development District, so I'll just run through a couple of key points about the program. What we're requesting is that you pass a resolution in support of application for our allocation of this program. The Home Grant Program will be overseen by the Development District. Homeowners will apply to the Development District through an application process, and then they will rank them by need accordingly. The use of the funds is limited to the rehab of existing structures. It must be owner-occupied. Maximum of $40,000 per house is allowed, and that's excluding inspections, as it says there. Dilapidated structures that require reconstruction are not eligible. All of these structures will have to be fully brought up to code at the end of this program, and priority will be given to roof replacement, HVAC systems, plumbing, etc. The structure must exhibit at least one code violation. Upper Cumberland Development District will work with an independent contractor certified to provide these inspections after applications have been made, and they require that after the work is complete, that the entire structure be brought up to building code. From that standpoint, it's a great program. City of Cookeville has never met the requirements for eligibility, if you will, based on per capita income, employment rate, etc. Unfortunately, we do now. Therefore, this is one of those things, kind of wish you weren't on that list. But it's a great partnership that we have with the Upper Cumberland Development District, a wonderful way to use these funds. City of Allgood, as well as Putnam County, will also be passing resolutions to be part of this allocation, and I request your approval.
Thank you, Ms. Kiefer. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just one comment, that you told us at work session the other day that the house has to be occupied by the owner. It cannot be a rental property that you own. Is that correct?
That is correct. For at least a year, I believe, and even after the improvements are made, there are restrictions on how long that owner must stay in that home, or risk having to pay some of the improvement dollars back as well. So,
And there's no match to
No
this.
match.
This is
no match.
I think this is a great opportunity, and grateful that we're able to utilize this.
And I want to thank the Development District for
Definitely.
partnering with
Yes.
us and making this happen.
Anything else? No. I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Kiefer. Item 6, consider approval of agreement with East Tennessee Natural Pipeline and Texas Eastern Pipeline for additional gas transportation capacity. Sponsors, Mr. Jeff Mills.
Mayor and Council, due to the recent winter months and extreme weather conditions associated with them, it has given us an enhanced perspective on our system's deliverability from our pipeline supplier, East Tennessee Natural Gas. The Gas Department is proposing entering into agreements with East Tennessee Natural Gas and Texas Eastern Pipeline to increase our demand transportation capacity. The increased pipe capacity will allow us to ensure the guaranteed delivery of gas to our residential, commercial, and industrial customer on peak consumption days, as well as provide anticipated capacities for our future systems growth. This graph here shows the top 15 historically peak days in our system. The red indicates days that were in 2014, and the remainder of the 15 were in 2010, actually. So 10 out of the 15 top historical days in the gas department was in 2014. So this is just one reason we're wanting to move for the extra capacity. Extra pipeline capacity on this segment of East Tennessee Natural Gas, which is our sole transmission delivery pipeline, is difficult to obtain due to availability. We were able to obtain 2,000 decatherms per day capacity, which is needed for our plan for the future industrial and community growth we are anticipating. The disadvantage of having the extra delivery demand capacity is the cost. The additional demand cost will be $290,540 per year, but we have the means to fund this cost, and we are not proposing any base rate increase at this time. The advantage of this is, however, ensures the gas department of having the transportation capacity needed to have the gas delivered as the consumption needs increases. Due to the difficulty we have encountered in trying to locate extra pipeline capacity, we feel fortunate to have been able to pinpoint the needed capacity and reach a contractual agreement to acquire it. Here's kind of a summary of where we're at now and what we're anticipating. Our current maximum daily quantity right now is 10,305 decatherms per day, and we're wanting to increase that by 2,000 decatherms per day, which will bring us to 12,305 decatherms per day at a 19.4% increase overall, at a cost of $290,540 a year, with no rate increase again. Our concern is if we do not obtain the capacity while we have the opportunity, and as future demand necessitates additional capacity, we may not be able to establish the needed capability with a pipeline for the transportation for our future growth. This agreement between the Cookeville Gas Department, East Tennessee Natural Gas, and Texas Eastern Pipeline ensures extra transportation capacity for peak day supplies, as well as the anticipated system growth. And I appreciate your consideration and recommend this approval.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll try to
Mills.
answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
So moved.
Second.
And this is a situation where when we have the capacity come open, we have to jump on it because the capacity is not always there.
The capacity for East Tennessee is dwindling. We've actually had conversations several times with them, and this just became available that we were able to get it. So,
Well, this conversation is just not recent. You've been trying to do this
Yes,
for
sir.
several years to get
Yes.
increased capacity.
Yes,
This just
that's
happened to
correct.
open up.
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
really need to have this approved as an emergency purchase.
Do I need
We had to sign the contract effective March 1, and so
do I need to change my motion?
You just make an amendment.
what are you thinking over there?
Nothing.
Can I move it? Well, if we make an amendment, well, what should we do? Robert's Rules of Orders here.
You're the parliamentarian.
I'm the parliamentarian.
I would withdraw your motion and make a new motion.
I'm going to withdraw my motion, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to make a new motion. I move that we approve this agreement as an emergency. Is that correct, Mr. Shipley?
Emergency purchase. yes.
As an emergency purchase.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can I ask a question? Is this permanent, or is this just for this year?
No, it's permanent.
So this is a good, really, investment.
Yes, it is an investment in our system and our community. Yes.
Any questions, comments? All right, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Anybody out there can tell me what a decatherm is, we will validate your parking tonight.
We've got,
We'll give you the
we
key
bought
to
them.
the city.
That's good.
You
Okay.
have to know geometry to do decatherms.
On to the item that we added that we added, item 7, consider approval to purchase 27 Lenovo L440 notebook computers, 32 AC/DC adapters, and 5 Lenovo M83 desktop computers from a statewide contract. Sponsor is the Police Department, Chief Randy Evans.
Mayor and Council, I'll attempt to make this quick and painless. As I stated there, as you stated for me, ask you to consider approval to purchase these computers. If you remember back in December, we bought the first half of these. These are replacing all of our mobile data terminals and computers in-house that have the Windows XP operating system that's no longer going to be supported by Microsoft. So these 27 machines, the laptops, notebooks, and you can see the cost there. And then the 32 adapters, those are the adapters that actually connect the computer to the charger inside the patrol car. And then, of course, then the 3 desktops for offices within the building. And the total expenditure there is $20,068.67. And as I just stated, as of April the 8th, of course, they're no longer going to support Windows XP. And in order to stay in compliance with CGIS, then we need to replace these computers. And I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you, Chief. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
And this is on the state bid.
It is a state bid, yes.
Right.
We assume that this is in your budget?
Well, some of the, obviously, we budget some life cycle replacement through every year. So a portion of these are going to be purchased through our operating budget, and the remainder of that we'll purchase through the drug fund.
Budgeted items are good.
Yeah.
Anything else? I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. This is a portion of the meeting. We open the floor to anyone, citizens or delegations that would like to come forward, say anything. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to remind everybody that the home show is this weekend at, I am the blank of the century. What is that called? It's not Hooper.
Heidelberg's.
I'm going to have cue cards here, but the home show starts tomorrow.
I wonder if historic zoning guy will be there.
I don't know. If I can remember his name, I'll call him and ask him.
Maybe I'll have a name tag.
Yes, sir.
I have a comment. Probably not going to like it, but the term was used by your group and Mr. Mills that the west side is a blighted area. And I'm going to challenge you to a whole new thinking. And it's not more apartments. It's developing what we have. So I'm just throwing it out for you to think about. Because should I get elected, that will be my platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
It seemed like when Mr. Mills was explaining about CL and CG zoning tonight, he pointed out a serious, what seemed to be a flaw in the permissibility of outdoor storage as long as it has a roof. And I would encourage the zoning folks, codes folks, and the council support on dealing with that immediately, because it will come back to haunt us if it's not dealt with in you know, with the detail that it needs to see.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We kind of realize there's a
Yes.
interpretation problem there.
We're in the process of making several amendments to the zoning code, but please note, if a building permit is obtained prior to or before we amend the code, it's grandfathered in. So,
But we are currently working on that. We are. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I think Ms. Ting wanted to say something.
Oh,
She's
I'm sorry.
shy with her
Yes,
hand
ma'am.
here.
City usually have a long-term plan for different area, but I haven't had any idea about what is the city's plan in regard to west side. But thankful all the merchant there, they really try to vitalize that area. It's become a very vibrant and area, but still, like one time the area has been used as an industry. I don't think anymore the city will zone that area for industry because time change, everything change. So I would like a city put some thought and see what the future and what the character the west side should be, and that will benefit the whole city. Some city have very good old town area, and we don't want people to think about Cookeville just Jackson Plaza and Sam's Club, and the Cookeville does have another side which is very good in regard to cultural and entertaining, all the other thing. So I think we really want all the business be successful, but we also need a good planning. And I'm sure Mr. Stover has good intention, but that's him. But what if the business change hand? Then what can we do?
Thank you, Ms. Steen.
And I think that we demonstrated tonight that this council is very much in favor of improving all of Cookeville. And when it comes to a group of people working hard and constantly looking at what they're doing, the Planning Commission is heads above on that. And they are constantly looking at the code, looking at the way to improve it, and I believe that you're walking out of here tonight with a clear understanding of what we want to see for Cookeville.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, just the plain facts are is that we've, and this is really no excuse, but we've been pretty darn busy with interchanges and roads and annexation, et cetera. So, and Cityscape has been thriving. I mean, the West Side continues to thrive, and without our help, okay, you've done really great. And I appreciate the comment about what are our thoughts in future. I certainly have espoused expansion of our Cityscape program, and I've sat down with Tony, where she was here a minute ago. She left, but I've personally sat down with Tony and asked what can we do as a council to continue to expand Cityscape, and because what it has done for Cookeville has turned us into a game player when it comes to competing with other cities for jobs, et cetera. So it's a part of that. I've espoused that, and I certainly hope we can do that. And we've heard from you guys, and I think we will. But we've been frying some pretty big fish for a while now. So maybe we need to back up and jump on that a little bit more. But anyway, just a heads up.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you can't be terribly specific, but approximately how long is it going to take code changes to go through? Because, like we were told, if a code was asked for and approved, we could still end up with just roofed storage.
James,
Mr. Mills,
be the one to answer that.
We're scheduled to the Planning Commission to review and make recommendations regarding amendments to the zoning code this month at our meeting, which is the fourth Monday of the month. And if they are approved then at the next meeting of the council, they would set a date for a public hearing, so that puts it in May. So you're looking at June before it would be effective. Any amendments, and there are several amendments other than this that we're looking at.
Right.
Let me speak on if I
Sure.
can, on a plan or lack of a plan for this area, which we just adopted a new plan for the entire city, and we did look at several different areas within the city, and there was a lot of discussion about West Side and redevelopment. There was discussion about the builder supply moving. There's been all kinds of discussion, but there's never been any direct development of a vision for that area. And that'd be something the Planning Commission and the Planning Department would be glad to look at if there's a desire to do that. And we had numerous public hearings. We had no specific comments from anybody out there. And there's been other efforts. 10 years ago, we tried to do historic zoning, which provides an overlay. It was voted down in the west side. We did create the Cream City, which they have control. Cream City, they have a review before anybody develops anything. It has to be approved by the Historic Zoning Commission. There's other methods of overlays to provide additional protection, guides on how things are developed, what's approved, what's not approved. But we'd be glad to do that if the property owners and business owners want to request that we do that. We'd be glad to start something. Now, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes many months to study and get agreement from everybody on what you want to do. But I just want to state that that's not something we're opposed to doing, and that is something I had several people who come by on this particular issue ask me, what's the city's plan for this area? We've got no detailed plan for this area.
Well, and we did try to make the entire west side a historic zone, but under the supermajority vote, we couldn't get it done.
And we had one property owner that owned a lot, and he voted against, and that's basically what killed it. But we did achieve enough to get the Cream City Historic District, and I think if you'll look at that area, that's one place that has really blossomed, and it's provided a lot of protection. But we looked at a much bigger area that included the property owned by Ms. Tain as being in the historic district, all this with a vision to develop, which once you do historic zoning, and I'm not saying historic zoning is the way to go, there are other methods, but historic zoning, you can develop design guidelines which specifically provide specifics on how properties are to be developed that are enforced by the property owners in that area. It's not something the city assists, but it's not something the city requires, the design guidelines. That's up to the property owners, and it has to be approved by the property owners also. So there are means of doing it, and it's not that we haven't tried to do it. We have, but if they want to, if the council and the property owners want a detailed plan, that's something we'd be glad to help with.
Mr. Stingley, maybe we could all get together and may have some real opportunity here. Yes, sir.
I just have a quick question about the...
Would you mind coming up so everybody can hear you?
I hadn't seen beyond the diagrams as far as the CL-CG breakdown. How far does the CL extend towards Cedar Avenue? Because we were basically looking at South Whitney as well as on the Scott Avenue property. How far, I guess that would be east, does the CL extend towards Cedar Avenue?
I think that's where it stops. If you want to, after the meeting, we'll walk down the hall, and I've got a map on the wall.
So the CL basically ends
I think it stops at Cedar,
on the west side of Cedar?
Central Business starts, but I don't quote me. I can show you a map out here.
Central Business, does that begin on the east side of Cedar?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that's correct.
Okay. So basically everything that is comprised with the builder supply is CL, as well as the former Wilson building is CL.
And all that, as Ms. Ting stated, until 2000 was zoned manufacturing. And we did in 2000, we did have some vision that we didn't want that area to stay heavy manufacturing and would prefer it to go to commercial, but there's no detailed plan for the area.
So CL basically exists west of Cedar down to Scott Avenue. And then CG picks
goes
up.
over to Whitney.
Willow.
Okay. So,
does it go to Willow?
Go look at the map.
Yeah, I think
CG goes from Willow to basically Whitney.
Okay, so
yeah, I've got a map out here. You can look at it and see.
And sir, what was your name? I'm sorry.
Mike Farley.
Mike Farley. Okay.
You go online too. We got it
Yeah, I was going to say, all of this is on the internet. When
I'm aware of that. I just had the expert here.
Oh, okay.
And wanted to.
Well, I can't quote every property in the city. I'll take you out here and show you.
He's pretty good, but he can't.
Get you close, but not exact.
Okay. Anything else? All right. This meeting's adjourned.